Thank you for joining our webinar today. We've got an exciting session for you focused on Fragility's experts, sharing their top tips and tricks to help you get more out of Microsoft Project. Let's get started. My name is Annie Levand, and I'm with a Microsoft Gold partner called Fragility. We've been implementing Microsoft Project and portfolio management solutions and developing enterprise-level applications for over 18 years for large enterprises, including everything from engineering, construction, IT, and new product development. PMOs and CIOs typically come to us when they can't easily explain what's going on across all their projects. They don't know what resources are working and what work, and they have a hard time getting consistent reports and metrics to make project-based decisions. We're known for having a 90% on-time, on-budget track record for successfully implementing these solutions for clients. We offer services and solutions in 3 core areas: deployment consulting services, Fragility's core business. We provide professional services for successfully planning and implementing Microsoft Project portfolio management, including Microsoft Project Online, Microsoft Project for the Web, soon to be Planner, integrating PPM with a line of business applications, and delivering strategic portfolio management solutions to support top-level management planning. Fragility also offers a set of Hammerhead pre-built software solutions and accelerators based upon 18 years of experience, including a set of Hammerhead products that provide improved access to your cloud PPM data, accelerate access to visual reports and dashboards using Power BI, connect data between your PPM system with Microsoft Teams, and extend connectivity into Active Directory to improve visibility, insight, and control over your work, people, and projects. New to our offerings is Hammerhead Power Pro, a pre-built solution crafted on the foundation of the Microsoft Power Platform and Project for the Web. This offering is designed to help bring some of our lessons learned on this platform to your organization. Finally, Fragility provides post-implementation support services, including expert care, designed to assist your PMO with gaining on-demand expertise on the solution supported. We have a full online automated e-learning offering that can improve consistency and adoption for your users of your project management tools. You can learn more about our services and solutions on our recently updated website, fragility.com. We have upcoming webinars covering sessions on best practices for project and PPM processes and tools. Join us on May 2nd. Your project management community will get even more value from our upcoming Microsoft Tips and Tricks session. We'll hear from another one of Fragility's experts sharing their top lessons learned with Microsoft Project. We're holding in-person project roadshows in Austin and Houston, Texas, starting the week of May 14th, followed by another one in Atlanta on May 22nd. You'll see the latest changes coming to Microsoft Project and Planner, learn about Microsoft's AI Engine Copilot, hear from clients at Fragility as to how you can improve your business using these technologies. Space is limited to the first 30 registrants, so sign up today. You can register for these events using the Eventbrite link provided or by searching Eventbrite Fragility in your browser. Hope you can join us for these upcoming sessions. All videos from this and previous series are available on our YouTube best practice playlist listed on this page. Topics range from managing your digital transformation program using PPM technologies to integrating PPM with agile line of business applications. Feel free to subscribe and access the library at any time and share with your colleagues. If you have any questions as you watch the presentation, please log them into the questions and answer manager at the top of your team screen. We'll review those towards the end of our session. With that, I'd like to introduce our presenter today, Charles Edward. Charles is a PPM consultant here at Fragility, who's been in the project management systems and process space for 10 years. He's a Microsoft certified professional with detailed experience in many of the Microsoft technologies, important to creating high-value project and portfolio management solutions. Charles lives in Houston, Texas. Charles, the floor is yours.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Annie. Let me share my screen. All right, awesome. Welcome everybody to our series of webinars that we do. Like Annie said, we have a lot more planned for the rest of the year, so look at our schedule, come through and learn something new. So today's tips and tricks session, these are different things that we'll cover. I'll talk about how to navigate to a specific task quickly, right? A lot of times when you have a project schedule, it might be a short schedule, it might be a longer schedule. You want to see that in a Gantt chart quickly. There's a quick way to get that instead of just sitting and scrolling. How to synchronize 2 separate tasks. This is a specific scenario that we'll look at when you want a specific task to synchronize with another task that's in the schedule. We can't only do that with just a predecessor logic. There's a different way to do that. So we'll cover that. We'll also look at color coding our tasks. So just by default, when you create a project schedule, you have tasks, you have summary tasks. It's just very bland color scheme. But you can always add your own company color schemes or things that make it have some visual clarity. So as you scroll through the schedule, you know where a milestone is, you know where a summary task is, and you can quickly see that. And I'll show you how you can set that up. Using filters in Project Professional. So within that desktop app, there are a lot of inbuilt filters that are available. We'll talk about one in particular that I've seen helping a lot of PMs as we do training. So cover that. We'll also talk about a unique way how we can update our project schedules. So as PMs, what's your main focus and your activity is updating that schedule based on the updates that you're getting from the PMs. So I'll show you a different way to how to update the schedule that you may have not seen before. So we'll look at that. Maybe that'll be useful to you as you update your projects in the future. We'll also talk about bulk editing tasks. A lot of times when you have tasks that you want to make that same changes over a series of tasks instead of doing that individually, there's a way you can bulk edit tasks as well. And finally, we'll look at a fun one called animating tasks and how we set that up. All right, so let me bring up my project schedule and then we'll start. So the first thing we'll look at is how to navigate to a specific task quickly, right? So this is my project that I have. It's called a residential construction, just generic project template that I have here. You can see we have a series of tasks in our project schedule. So right now I'm in the Gantt chart view. You can see that on the left-hand side, we have a label there. This is the Gantt chart view that we're on. And as I scroll through, let's say in the framing section, I want to see install second floor joist. Okay, that's a task in my project schedule. But you can see on the Gantt chart, it's not really appearing here. I want to see that right here. Of course, what I can do is in this scroll section, I can click and kind of get to where that needs to be. But that's always, I got a lot of clicks to get to where that is. Depending on my time scale, I might have to keep clicking till I get there. So instead of doing that, we have something called scroll to task. So to get to that, we go to the task ribbon. The task section we have, in the editing section, we have scroll to task. Scroll to task. So it's in the task ribbon, editing section, scroll to task. So now once I click on the task that I want to scroll to, so that's my step number one, click on that task. Step two is scroll to task, and then it'll quickly bring that into your view. So that way, I'm not sitting here trying to, scroll and find, okay, where is my task? I can all confidently go to my task, scroll to task, and then bam, it's right in your view. And then you can look at, okay, what it's linked to and whatever analysis that you need to do. So scroll to task is a very useful one as you kind of navigate and look at the schedule, look at the tasks, how they're linked, do those analysis. Scroll to task is a very useful shortcut that you can use instead of scrolling through your Gantt chart. Since I use that often, what I also do is add that to my quick access toolbar. You can always right click on any of the shortcut or buttons here that you have in your ribbon. Right click and add it to my quick access toolbar. I've already done that. That's why it's grayed out. So I use it quite often. So that's also another way to, instead of going to the task ribbon, finding that button, if you use that often, right click on that button, add it to your quick access toolbar, and then we'll have it right there. And this is not just limited to the Gantt chart view. So even if you go to a separate view, so if I go to the view ribbon, let's say I want to go to task usage view. And same thing, if I scroll down and I want to see where is my, under drying section, install roof decking. So that's scheduled for July. But you can see our time scale right here is in March, of course. So I can sit here and scroll all the way till I get to July, or I can go scroll to task. It's one of the shortcut buttons I've added here, or task ribbon, editing section, scroll to task, and we're directly into that view. In here, I don't have any work or resource assigned, but that's when it comes handy as well. So that scroll to task, you can use it in different views, the task usage view, resource availability, resource usage, to quickly get to the task that you're on and the details that you need to see on the timescale section. So you don't have to scroll through that. So that's scroll to task and how we can use that as a shortcut to kind of quickly get to the details that we're trying to look at in any of the views that we're looking at. Okay. So that is how we navigate to a specific task quickly. And within that, a lot of times what I see PMs do is, for example, let's say I want to edit this task name. So generally what folks try to do is they try to click into that cell and then start typing something. So that's one way to do that. Or what I've seen people do is double click on that task name and then enter that name here. These are all correct ways to do it, but I'll show you a different way that's might be more faster to do, less clicks to do, and that is inserting what we call an entry bar. So right under the ribbon, you'll see I have what we call an entry bar. By default, whenever you start Project Professional or you just install Project Professional, this is not that set up for you. So a lot of times in our training, we tell the PMs this is some of the shortcuts, some of the things that you do as your setup to make your lives easier using the application. So this is this entry bar that's here below the ribbon. So by default, you will not have that unless you've gone ahead and displayed that. So to show that, what we do is go to the File, Options. So File, Options under Display tab. We have show these elements. Entry bar is by default not selected. So you will select that checkbox. And then what you'll have is this entry bar below. So just to recap, we go to File, Options, under Display, you'll have this entry bar. So now that what allows me to do is instead of clicking, double clicking, what I have is entry bar. So if I need to edit this name of the task or add new things to it, I can quickly do that without having to click into the cell, double click, any of that. Just the entry bar that we have. Again, a useful thing that we've seen help PMs kind of quickly get to what they need to do as far as the updating the schedule. Okay. So look at scroll to task and entry bar. Next, we'll look at how do we synchronize tasks. So let's look at a scenario, right? So we have foundation as a summary task, and I have all these tasks that need to be complete for my foundation to be complete. So as a PM, you're not actually doing these tasks, but you might be overseeing these tasks with the team members, getting updates from them, kind of seeing what the updates are, progress is. That's what you as a PM would do. But we're not actually doing these tasks. We just have these tasks to track progress and track the team members on what they're doing. Sometimes what we want is a bucket task to kind of encapsulate this time period of when we start the excavation for foundations all the way through backfill of the foundation when that's complete. So I want a task that kind of comprises that time frame. So I'm going to insert a task, say PM activities or PM supervising, whatever that is. So PM activities is a new task that I added. So if I just add a predecessor, right? So if you think about, okay, how can we do that? How can we have a task that is dynamic enough where if things change within these activities, it'll also change this PM activities task. So you might be tempted to just use a predecessor, for example, if I just do finish to finish with that last task. So let's say 24 finish to finish, and I give that a 42-day duration task as well. So right now it looks like we're matching, right? We start 4/12 and end on 6/10. However, if some of these tasks get delayed, let's say excavate for foundation initially was planned for 3 days, now we take 5 days. If we do that, now we're not starting on 4/12 anymore, we're starting on 4/16. So you can see this PM activity is not really synchronized with this series of tasks. So just by using predecessors, you won't be able to do that. So there's a different way that we can do that. So let me undo what I just did. So we have the PM activities task. Another scenario that you could use is maybe for timesheets. You just want a bucket task for all your team members to track time on. They're not going to be tracking time on individual tasks. You just want a bucket task that they can track time on. You can also use this method that I'm about to show you. Okay. So of course, first thing is we go back before we even add the task. So before I even add the task, what I'm doing is this is a 42-day duration series of activities starting from excavate all the way through backfill foundation. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add PM activities. So nothing tricky over there. PM activities. Activities. All right. So for today's duration task, I can add that as duration. So what I want to do now is I want that PM activities to be synchronized with all these tasks, task number 17 all the way through task number 24. So the way we can do that is, what I'm going to do is copy my start date. So Control C or right click, copy cell, either one works. And then I'm going to paste that into my start date for PM activities. So I'm going to do a special type of a paste. So right click, paste special. So not just a regular paste, paste special. We're going to paste the link to that task. Paste link. So now I have 4/12 as a date within that task. So we got the start date of the first task, which is 4/12. My last task is backfill foundation, which ends on 6/10. So I'm going to same thing, copy that, Control C or right click, copy cell. And then come to a PM activities task and paste that in there. Again, special paste, not the regular paste, paste special, paste link, and then click OK. So now essentially what we've done is we've connected the start date of that excavation task and the finish date of the backfill foundation task to my PM activities task. So now let's see what happens if excavate, for example, initially planned for 3 days. Now if it takes 4 days, 5 days, we're still synchronized as far as the time frame of when those activities are starting versus completing. And we have that task there. So what we called synchronizing that task. And of course, the scenario that you would use is maybe you as a PM are overseeing those tasks. So you have a task that you can maybe assign yourself some work on or track time against that, whatever the case is. That's the way how we can synchronize that task. And just recap, what we do is copy the task that you want the start date from and do a paste special, then paste link. So we get the start date from that task that we need the start date from, and then we go to the finish date of the task that we need finish date from, and then copy that and paste it. So now this PM activities task is now a dynamic task where it adjusts based on anything that happens within this series of tasks. So there can be scenarios where that is useful, where you're not always trying to increase duration and trying to match what's happening. It'll automatically match since we've set it up that way. That is synchronizing those tasks within a project schedule. Okay. Next one is look at color coding, right? As I mentioned, when you start off with a project schedule, this is there's no color coding here. There's just your project. You have your task summary has bold. That's kind of about it. There is nothing else that is happening as far as color coding. But we can add some character, some your own company themes, whatever that is, into the project schedule, so you have some standardization, or just from visual clarity perspective to make that visible. So how do we do that? So that's all going to be in the format section or the Gantt chart format ribbon. What we do is go to text styles. So Gantt chart format ribbon, text styles is where we get to specify the colors, and themes, and everything else that we want to have within our project schedule. So the main things that we like to do is change the summary tasks rows and also the milestone tasks. Okay. So in the item to change dropdown, I'm going to click on this dropdown and go to say milestone task. Milestone tasks, and then here's where you can specify the color. You want a font color, a background color, or a background pattern. You can get as crazy as you need to. But let's say I want to give that a blue color font. I want all my milestone tasks to be blue. I click OK. And you'll see now my task and my project has those milestones that are blue color. Milestone is defined in project as tasks that have 0-day duration. So all those 0-day duration tasks are what we call milestone tasks. So now you can see I have some visual cues of where my milestone tasks are within my project. Same thing if I go back to textiles. Let's go to item to change. Let's say summary task. Let's say I want to give that a certain color. So summary task, let's say I want to give that a light orange color as an example. Not the font. I want to change the background color. So I'll go to textiles, summary tasks. So now the font color, I want to change the background color. Let's say the background color is orange, light orange. Click OK. So now I can see that these are my summary tasks. So it gives you, some compartmentalization and some views of these. This is my summary, this is my initial, and that's my finishing up framing. And so it gives you, some sections of projects and tasks to look at. And visually you can see where your summary tasks are, where your milestone tasks are, and things of that nature. So that's what we can do within textiles is add those color coding to make our lives easier to kind of reading this task. So even if this is a standard that you want to use, you will just save this as a template and then have that available to your team as well. Okay, so that's color coding tasks for visual differentiation and readability. That's the main reason why we do that. And of course, you can use your own company color schemes, etc., to make that pop out and have that standardization across. Okay, that's color coding tasks. Next, we'll talk about using filters. Okay, so many of you may already know how to use filters. So if you go to the view ribbon, in the data section, we have something called filters. So by default, within project, there's a lot of filters that are already set up in there. So we can filter for active tasks, for late tasks, filter for milestone tasks, and so on. So for example, if I just filter for milestone tasks, filter for all those milestone tasks. There's a lot of useful filters that are already there. If you want to clear that filter, you click on that drop down and clear that filter. I want to show you one specific one that I've seen being very helpful to the PMs. So that's the one I want to show you here. So in the filter drop down, you go to more filters. So within here, there's some, by default selections here. I want to go to more filters and look at a whole list of filters that we have. Of course, we don't have the time to kind of go through all of these, but one of the ones that I've seen a lot of PMs use and find useful is this should start finish by filter. So we'll talk about the scenario where we use that, right? So before we even apply that, on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, you as a PM are updating this project schedule. And generally when we set up the tasks, we have them in a chronological order, if possible. Sometimes we may have some tasks that are in other sections that are also happening right now, but is in a different section just because how we organized it. So this filter, what it'll allow you to do is for that window of time that you want to see, okay, what are my tasks I need to update? This is a great filter to use for that purpose. So I have not made any updates on my project plan. So this project started on 4/1. And we're here right now in about 2 weeks into the project, right? So I want to update my project. I want to see all of the tasks that I need to update and kind of look at. So what I can do is go to this filter dropdown, more filters, and scroll down to should start, finish by. Should start, finish by, and click on apply. So it's going to ask you, okay, what is the start date of when you want those tasks to filter out? So my project started 4/1, so I'm going to use that as an example. 4/1. Any task that should have started by 4/1, I want that in my view. And tasks that should have finished by, so let's say I'm updating this as of 4/11, so I'm going to click on 4/11, which is today. Click on that. So now you can see what it did is filtered all the tasks within my project that should start by 4/1 or should finish by 4/11. So I can focus on just these tasks and see, okay, what are my updates? And talk to the team, what are the updates, and I can make those updates. It's especially helpful if you have a longer project schedule where you have tasks sprinkled across, it's not chronologically ordered, where you can kind of just look at a certain section. We have multiple sections of activities that are happening parallelly or later on, but it's all in one project. It's grateful to kind of use and see, okay, this is the time frame that I want from start date of 4/1 to finish of 4/11. What are my tasks that I need to look at? That's a great filter to use, and I've seen a lot of PMs use that on a regular basis to kind of update their project schedules. So that is should start finish by. Just to recap on how we set that filter, you go to this filter dropdown, which is in the view ribbon, data section. This filter dropdown is where you go to more filters, and that's where you see the should start finish by as a filter. Just like we clear the filter, you can click on that drop down and say clear filter to kind of clear that filter, and you'll be back into your original view. Yeah, there's a lot more filters in there, but that's a specific one that I wanted to point out since I've seen that being useful to a lot of PMs, so you can use that going forward as well. Okay. Now let's talk about how do you as PMs update the project schedule. Okay. Scenarios, some of the scenarios that I hear is we ask team members, okay, we look at a certain task, okay, how much percent complete are you? 10%, 20%, they give you a number and then you put that in. Sometimes it's measurable, like for a construction project, maybe yeah, it's measurable on how much activities and things that are done, but sometimes with software type projects, it's not really measurable on how much percent complete am I. If you ask a team member, okay, how much percent complete are you? They'll just give you an estimate based on their knowledge of the task. So instead of asking them that, how about we let project calculate the percent complete, right? So instead of putting that burden on them, on what is the percent complete, and they're just giving you a number out of thin air, let's have project calculate what that is. So as the PM, what you're mostly focused on is the timeline of the project. Of course, there's resources, budget constraints, all that is there. But I'm saying on a fundamental level, you're looking at the timeline, right? Are the tasks finishing as planned? Do we have delays? Do we need to communicate delays to the stakeholders, etc.? So let's use that method of looking at it is, as a PM, I'm focused on, are my tasks finishing as we originally planned? If not, we're going to give them more time to finish it. If it is finishing as planned, let's mark that and carry on. Okay. So to do that specific activity that I'm going to show you on how to update this is a couple steps here. So project ribbon, the first thing you have to do is set a status date. So project ribbon, in the status section, I'm going to click on this calendar icon and say, I'm going to update this project as of 4/11, which is today, and then click OK. So what I can do now is I can select tasks, go to task ribbon. So you can see this task number 2, 5-day duration task starting 4/1, finishing 4/5. This should have already been complete. And let's say this is complete and there was no delays on that task. I go to task ribbon, schedule section, we have something called mark on track. We're going to use that to update our project and our tasks. Mark on track, for that to work, you have to set a status date. So that's what we did first here. Go to project ribbon, status date. Generally, when you're updating the project as of is when you put the status date in. Then you come to the task ribbon, schedule section, mark on track. So click on mark on track on this one. As of 4/11, this should already be 100% complete. And you can see you can continue doing that mark on track. All that is complete. Let's go to different tasks. Let's say clear and grub lot. It was supposed to start on 4/9. And let's say this was actually a 5-day task. 4/9 through 4/15. Okay. Now, if we ask the team members, hey, how much percent complete are you? If they just give you a number, you just put that number in, right? We're saying we don't want to use that method. We want project to calculate what that percent complete is. So I'm asking the team, the question that I'm asking them is, are we on track to finishing this task 4/15? That's all the answer that I need. If they say yes, I'm right. Okay, that's all I need. I can click on mark on track. We have 60% complete based on where we're at today and where that task is complete. Project did that math of percent complete on that task. Versus, let's say they say, no, we're not on track to complete 4/15. We need a couple more days. What I'll do to reflect reality into my schedule is give it a couple more days. So now we're finishing, instead of 4/15, we're finishing that on 4/17. And then I'll mark that on track. So we're on track to complete for 4/17 now. Mark on track, so we're around 43% complete. So you see how project did the math of what that percent complete should be based on the status date and based on when that task is finishing. Okay. You can always use mark on track as an option, since what we as a PM most are focused on is getting those tasks completed as planned, because the delays then we'll have to do some corrective actions later on to get that, bring that schedule back and things of that nature. But on a high level, on a fundamental level, what we're trying to do is get our tasks progressing, completed as planned as much as possible. That's what we use as mark on track feature to kind of get that project to calculate that. Okay, that's one way to do that. Another way is what I see PMs do is go to the project ribbon, status section. You can also update the project in one go. So if I know everything is on track based on what we've talked to the team members on, I can click on this update project and it says update for it to work as complete through. So I'm saying if I'm updating it on today 4/11, so today's date. So anything that needs to be complete, set 0% to 100% complete. So that means anything that needs to be complete as of 4/11 within my project, make that 100% complete. So I click OK. You can see some of them are already scheduled to be complete. It's all marked complete. So that's the bulk way of editing that or marking that, updating that project. But this mark on track is what I wanted to show you on how you can have project do the math on percent complete of a certain task. Okay, so it's a different way of thinking about it and updating your project. So if it's applicable to you in your scenario, definitely consider using that. Okay, that was a unique way to update your project schedule. Next, we'll look at bulk editing task. A lot of times, again, you want to bulk edit tasks. Of course, you can individually make the changes on individual tasks, or you can select a series of tasks and bulk edit them. So for example, let's say I'm going to go these two tasks. As an example, I want to change those two to 5 days duration. Of course, I can come in here, change it to 5, change it to 5. Instead of that, what I can also do is select those two tasks, go to task ribbon, property section, we have information. So that's going to bring up information for those combination of those two tasks. So you can see a lot of the tabs are grayed out because we have selected multiple tasks. So those grayed out ones are that are applicable to individual tasks. So now that we've selected multiple tasks, the only options available to you are things that can be applied on multiple tasks. Right now the duration is 1 day to duration. If I want to change both of those to 5 days, I can just enter 5 days in here and click OK. So you can see both of them now became 5 days. Of course, you can do that for a series of tasks. Go to information and change the duration that way. Or if you want to make them inactive, you can go to information. Let's also inactivate that task as a certain way. Or if you want to add a calendar or a constraint, all that is available to you on adding a calendar to that specific task, or adding a constraint, or adding a deadline to those tasks, all that is available when you select multiple tasks and then go to task ribbon, property section. We have this what we call task information dialog box. You can see multiple task information. Then you can make those updates. That's also something that's going to be useful to you, especially if you're doing similar type of updates that you need to do. Select those multiple tasks instead of doing them individually, and then go into that information dialog box. And so that was bulk editing tasks, right? And then finally, we look at a bonus again. As a PM, our triple constraint, right? Scope, budget, time. Those are the main things that we always look at for a project, and how we can control that to kind of provide a successful completion of a project. So I'm going to set up a scenario here. I'm just going to use scope and budget. Okay, just give them both a 2-day duration. So what I'm going to do right now is copy my finish and do a paste special into start date. I'll explain that once this scenario completes, and then finish of that first one, copy that and paste it into the second task here. Now you can see this is the reality of what happens in a project, right? We have scope, we have a budget defined, and then as time goes on, what happens? Your scope changes. And then now we're like, okay, now we need to find new budget. Do we get budget approved? Yes, we did get budget approved. Okay, now the budget has changed. Okay, now budget has changed. Now what do we do? Can we get scope decreased? No, by the time we were thinking about it, scope has already changed. So you can see this is the reality. A lot of times what happens on our project, right? We have scope defined and we have budget defined. But these have its mind of its own. It's going to go and keep going till eternity of scope and budget kind of chasing each other, and we're chasing that to kind of control it. This is the reality of our projects. Sometimes, not all the times. This is what we call animating tasks. Again, it's kind of building on what we did in synchronizing the tasks. We just tricked project into doing this, where it's animating all these two tasks, and it'll just keep going if we don't undo that. So what I did here is I set up 2 tasks for this to work. If you're trying to just do a fun thing, is if you set this up, it needs to be at least a 2-day duration task. What I did is I copied my finish and special paste that into start, paste special, and do a paste link. And then same thing, I did finish, copy that, and then paste that into start. So we're kind of reversing the order of each, and then I can scroll to task and find them. they'll be continuing going there. So that's animating tasks, which use that scope and budget as an example to kind of relate to what we go through as a PM. But that is the animating tasks and how we can see that. So just to recap on the things that we saw, right, before we open it up for questions. How do we navigate to a task quickly? So that's what we call a scroll to task. So I'll just recap that as well. Scroll to task. So if you go to task ribbon, editing section, we have scroll to task. Let's quickly bring that into a view. That's not only applicable in a Gantt chart view, task usage view, resource availability, resource usage. You can use that in any of those views. And so to quickly bring whatever you have selected on the left to bring that into your view instead of sitting there and scrolling. So that is the scroll to task. How to synchronize two separate tasks. We use this foundation as an example. So PM activities or a time sheet type of a bucket task. To do that, what we did is copy that first task and do a paste special. So we copied, Control C or right click copy, and we do a paste special and paste link to that task. And then we go to the task that we need the finish date for, copy that, and then paste special in there. Now we have a task that's synchronized and kind of dynamically moves with that task, which is useful. Then we have color coding tasks. We saw how we can add some visual differentiation and clarity into our project schedule by going to the format ribbon, format section, text styles is where we can see that information, and all the different things that we can change are here. We looked at milestone and summary tags, the main ones that we see being used. So that's color coding task and adding that into your project schedule. A unique way to update your project schedule. We saw that how we use mark on track. For that to work, you go to project ribbon, you set the status date first. So that's the step number one. Once we do that, then we can go to task, select our task, do a mark on track where project is doing that math of what that percent complete needs to be. And then we can carry that forward and reflect reality into our project schedule. Bulk editing tasks. We looked at how we can select multiple tasks and then go to task ribbon. Property section, information section. We bring up multiple task information and we can edit that in one go by doing that. And finally, we looked at that example of animating tasks. Again, there's no real world application of that, but we just use that as a fun way to kind of see how we are tricking projects to do things that it's not really realistic, but just as a fun exercise. So that's animating tasks that we saw there as well. So I'm just going to close this particular project since I don't want that to kind of keep going there till eternity. But at this point, that is the end of my presentation. We'll open it up to questions and things that you have, and any specific things that you want us to cover. We can do that at this point. Looking at the Q&A, it says, what does the symbol mean in the information column when you synchronize tasks? I think you're referring to this. This is what we call a constraint. So if you hover over that, you see this is a finish no earlier than constraint. So at any time within if we look at task number 18 from basement walls, if I directly go and change the start or finish dates, we never recommend you do that. What you'll do is directly add a constraint. So if I change the start date of this task from 5/9 to, let's say I'm going to move it to 5/13, I was going to give you something and say, yeah, move remove link. Automatically what you have is you've added a constraint on the start. So it has a start no earlier than constraint. That's 5/13. Similarly, if I change the finish date of the task manually, again, we never do this on manually changing start and finish dates. But as an example, just to show you how constraints get in there.
Apologies, Charles. I took over your screen so they can't see. So I want to reshare. Sorry about that.
No worries. All right, I can share again. Share. All right, so that question was, what was this indicator that's in that synchronized task? So in this indicators column, if I hover over that, you'll see this is called a finish no earlier than constraint. So whenever you see this calendar type icon, you have a constraint that's set up on that task. So the way that a constraint can get set up, the incorrect way that a constraint can get set up is as a PM, you're tempted to say, okay, this task is now starting 5/9 is starting the next week, 5/13, for example. I'm tempted to just go ahead and put that date in there, and I click OK. The moment you do that, you'll have a constraint on that task because you added a date manually, and you're not really using predecessor logic to do that. That's how we get constraints on there. Generally, we try to avoid using constraints and use predecessor relationship or the durations to get the dates that we need. So if I change the start date, you will have a start no earlier than type constraint. If I change the finish date, same thing. If I go and change, it's not gonna finish on 5/27. It's gonna finish on 5/30. However, that you'll see there is a finish no earlier than constraint. So whenever you manually change a date in here, you'll have a constraint that's set up. That's the incorrect way to set up a constraint. But if you know for sure you want to set up a constraint, the correct way to do that, you would double click into that task in Advanced tab. There's different types of constraints we can set up as soon as possible, late as possible, etc., etc. This is where you set up a constraint. And that's a little more of an advanced scenario where you use constraints if you are familiar with how that works. In general, we try to avoid constraints since we can model that and get to dates that we need using durations and the predecessor logic to get the dates that we need. We don't necessarily manually change dates within a project plan. What could be some use cases for animating tests? I haven't thought of a use case where that would, because it'll just keep going till eternity that way. But as an example of, of what we're chasing sometimes on a project, scope changes, budget changes, we have budget constraints, and then we're just, keep chasing our tails on, what do we do? What do we do to fix it? But as far as a real world use case of animating tests, I don't think there is one, but it's just a fun thing to kind of trick project to do an unrealistic scenario over there. All right, so next question. When using the synchronizing task method illustrated, the project provides a notification that there are external links being used when you open it. Generally, I've been discouraged from doing this with MS Project. Is there any concern with seeing this for synchronizing tasks? Yeah, so it is adding a link where it says an external link, but we've seen clients that have used that successfully. I think the only other scenario where you may run into if you're using timesheets, there is time that is entered in by the users. That's all actual time that's coming into the project schedule. That's could be where you may run into issues, but if you're not tracking time, if you don't have resources assigned on your tasks, I don't think you'll have much of an issue. You'll just get that pop-up that you have external links. So even if I try to delete this task over here, you'll see it'll give me a pop-up saying you have dynamically linked tasks. Are you sure you want to delete? I have 2 of those, so I have 2 of those, and then I'll delete it. But yeah, we have not seen it, cause too many problems. But if you have resources assigned and if you're doing timesheets, I would say try it. If it doesn't work, then we'll have to kind of go back on using your manual method of synchronizing those tasks. Okay, any other questions? Is there a way to have the PM resource line not be on the critical path? Okay, interesting. So when you have this as a task within there, of course, if you look at the critical path, this task, the way it's not going to be on the critical path is there is no successor links to this particular task. So if I look at successors, we set this task up as a standalone task. So since it does not have links, or it's not, it's not driving tasks later on, it generally is not going to be part of your critical task path or a critical path because there is no successor links, predecessor logic to it. It's a standalone task. But if it's on a project level, if you have a task on a project level, right? This project, for example, is 153 days, and if we have a task here that goes 153 days, I've seen that scenario where what we try to do is have that bucket task maybe a day or 2 short of it, so that way it's not kind of impacting your critical path calculations. but you can't just select a task and say, don't use this as a critical path. You can force a task to be in part of a critical path. That's a different conversation. But in this scenario, what you're asking for, right? If you have a long task that is a PM activities task, how do I avoid it being a part of the critical path? Of course, you want to make sure there's no logic relationship to it as far as predecessors or successors to that task. And then the duration, if it's for the entire duration of the project, you would decrease that duration by a day or two, so that way it's not the task that's driving everything. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Good deal. Thank you for joining. Like I said, we have the recordings of this will be on YouTube, so if you need to recap, you can definitely watch that, or reach out to Rob and Annie on any other further things that you need. But Annie, if you have any other closing thoughts.
Great presentation, Charles. So how can Fragility help you? If you're looking for assistance with project or PPM, think of us. We can help you with consulting, training, and adoption services to address your most pressing challenges with Microsoft solutions. Additionally, if you're looking to up your game with either Project for the Web or Project Online, we offer a series of pre-built solution accelerators that can make any implementation that much better. Reach out to us to explore any of these solutions or services to see how they could add value to your organization. Here are some good resources for you and your team if you'd like to learn more. You can visit our YouTube page, which has a set of playlists ranging from client testimonials and best practice videos to a full library of focused recordings on topics like resource management, portfolio management, and project execution. Next, you can head over to our shiny new website at fragility.com. It offers a lot of great content, including a Learn section with blogs and videos for your PMO and PPM community. We'd recommend you also visit the Project and Planner group on LinkedIn, which now has over 27,000 active members of a great interactive learning community. This is a public domain resource that everyone in the community has access to. Finally, if you have specific questions or needs, reach out to us. You can send us an email at info@fragility.com, and we'll set up time to talk through your challenges, goals, and work together to develop solid solutions to meet your requirements. Thank you to everyone for joining our webinar today. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you online for our next session. Have a great day.